All right. Hi, Beirut. How are you?
Doing great. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well. We're going to talk about Facebook Messenger and bots today. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. And you've developed a new bot called FindBot. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, actually, ours is a bot platform, and the platform enables the creation of many, many bots. So yes, that's one of them, but there have been many others that I'm happy to talk about as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll dive into that. But first, tell me why everyone should be paying attention to bots right now. Why is this so important?
I think it's a really, really big deal, and the reason is, I see it as a paradigm shift. Okay, and what I mean by that, I mean, it's a big word, so let me explain. What I mean by that is, if you look at the last 40, 50 years of computing history, the way we use computers has changed every decade or so, right? In the mid 80s, as soon as the PC was invented, every computer came with a desktop OS, and then you downloaded clients. And then about a decade later, in mid 90s, it became, we used it through browsers, visiting different websites. And then another decade later, it became smartphone operating system and apps that you download. And now we are on the verge of a major shift yet again onto messaging and bots, right? So whenever shifts like these have happened, these are hugely disruptive, create a lot of opportunities and threats. They've created, I don't know, maybe $1 trillion plus worth of economic value. Google, eBay, Yahoo, Amazon didn't exist before the web shift. And, Instagram, Snapchat, WeChat, and so on didn't exist before the mobile shift. So I think this is likely to be another big, disruptive, transformative shift. And that's why it's a really big deal.
Okay, but why bots and not, say, apps? I mean, are apps dead and bots are taking over? How do you see this working out?
Yeah, so there's a variety of reasons why this is happening, right? See, one of the biggest problem with apps is the fact that you have to download it, right? Apps are basically what you call client-side development. It's software that works on the device as opposed to on the server side, on the cloud, right? So, and as you know, most users don't like to download, right? Even as there are millions of apps, most of us use barely a dozen apps on our device, right? We may be traveling on a United Airlines, but I don't have the app. I may shop at Gap, but I don't have the app, right? So we do all these things, but we don't download each and every one of these apps because it takes too much effort. It's hard to context switch. It's expensive for the developers to build the app. It's expensive to upgrade the app and to market it and so on, right? But as you move to the bot paradigm, right? Okay, firstly, what's a bot? A bot is just a software program that can send and receive messages, right? I mean, if that same software program sent and received HTML or web pages, we call it a website. If it sends and receives chat messages, we call it a bot, right? So that's all it is. But because it sits on the server side, it's very convenient, right? So firstly, you don't have to download it, right? If somebody tells you about it, I can quickly go to Facebook Messenger and start chatting with the bot. It's super easy to do. If I can, for the developer, it's inexpensive. It's much cheaper to build it, to upgrade it because it sits on the server side, and also to market it, right? So I think it's going to be. We saw all of these dynamics when we moved from client side on the big screen. We moved from client side to server side computing, and we're about to do the same thing on the small screen, and I think it's going to be just as transformational.
Okay, but bots, are they just glorified if-then statements, or is there actually some intelligence to these things?
So I think you're right. Well, firstly, what's different about bots is that they have a conversational interface, right? Because you're just chatting back and forth. Now, when you chat, bots can have different kinds of capabilities. You could have simple bots, which are literally just keyword-based if-then-else statements, right? If you see this keyword, do this. If and so on. But you're going to have advanced bots with more intelligence as well. I think you're going to have both kinds of bots, right? And to me, not every bot needs to be smart. If you think about it, if it's just a pizza ordering bot, for example, so long as I can place an order quickly and the pizza arrives, I don't need to have a discussion on the philosophy of life, right? So it really doesn't need sort of natural language or artificial intelligence in there. It just needs to get the task done. So a lot of it depends on the context of the bot and its capabilities. If it's simple, you want a bot that's the most efficient, the easiest, the least conversation to get the task done. And you'll have both kinds. I mean, you'll have simple ones, you'll have advanced ones. It just depends on what you're trying to do.
Okay, and so when you think of a bot that's more intelligent, what are some of the use cases that you're seeing either now or in the future that marketers should get excited about?
Oh, I think there's going to be a ton of use cases, right? So I think intelligence helps the bot do a lot of interesting things. So let's say, let's take any brand or e-commerce site, right? So figuring out, product discovery is one thing. Like, what kind of products do you have? Whether it's, let's say, if it's a bank or even if it's an e-commerce site, what kind of deals, what kind of offers, what kind of products. Do you have a blue shirt with a pair of shorts? And you can browse through it. But the point is, you can ask, instead of having to browse through a big catalog, you can just ask, okay, do you have, in this color or this shade or this size and so on, right? So it could be product discovery. Beyond that, it could be sort of transactions. You want to purchase it. You want, 3 or 5 of those. You can quickly get deals and offers. Even customer support. After you order the item, you can ask questions. Get your questions answered if you want to make some changes and such. So in each of these transactions, I think if there's a little bit of natural language capability, it can handle. It can be very flexible, right? The user can say it in different ways because each of us, we have our own unique styles, and just saying, I want a large pepperoni pizza. I mean, there's probably 50 different ways of saying that statement. And if the bot can handle it, then it can support all of these transactions, right? But for a marketer, it's super exciting because, look, messaging is in the hands of maybe 3 to 4 billion mobile subscribers that use it a dozen times a day, right? Or more. And that's the kind of reach that you have. So if you have a bot that can reach as many users as that, I mean, that's much more powerful than an app ever was.
So, I mean, do you see bots replacing salespeople potentially, with on the B2B side or on the B2C side? There's not a lot of salespeople on the B2C side as compared to the B2B, but are these bots going to eventually answer questions the way that marketers want them to, so that they become either a supplement or they take over a sales force?
I think so, yes. If you think about it, like say when websites came about, right? I mean, they disintermediated a lot of services, right? The travel agent, if we even remember what that was, I mean, travel agents disappeared. A lot of sales, call center people disappeared because you could just place an order on Amazon instead of, calling the catalog company and having a conversation, right? So whenever technology makes certain things easier, it disintermediates sometimes the middleman, sometimes the service provider, people providing incremental help. I think bots will certainly, so some of it is just an extension of websites. What websites have already done, bots are just going to do it easily on your mobile device inside the messaging app, which is easy and convenient for most people. But there are some new use cases that open up because it's conversational. You can get your questions answered. You can discover the right product. For example, I've heard Sephora launched a bot, right? And apparently in cosmetics, there's many different varieties, finding just the right shade and the right sort of context it takes. So if you can discover that, you can get your questions answered much faster, right? Instead of waiting in a queue, waiting patiently for someone to be available. Or even if you visit the local Walmart or Target, I mean, usually they don't have people even just to answer a simple question, what aisle is this item in? And you're kind of wandering the store. I mean, it's a lot easier to get these things answered instantly and quickly. So we're going to see more and more of these activities sort of moving to the bot, yes.
But when? Because, I can't even get Siri to understand me half the time, Siri on my iPhone. So when are we going to see bots? If I'm walking around Home Depot or Lowe's, when are we going to see bots able to do that for me?
So I think, Siri has a different problem, and I want to be careful not to use that as the template for bots, right? Siri has a very ambitious scope. It says, ask me anything. And and people actually do, and then it can't answer half of those questions, right? But imagine if a bot is very, very specific, right? It's your Home Depot bot, and it says, look, ask me anything about stuff in Home Depot, but I can't tell you about anything else. Then it knows about hammers and nails and all of that stuff, because it knows all those keywords. The developer has programmed it for that, right? So when you narrow the scope, when you set the right expectation, it's much easier for bots to deliver, right? On the other hand, when you overpromise and underdeliver, that creates disappointment. So I think the most successful, the most interesting bots are going to be specific bots for precise use cases, where there is the right expectation, and most average regular users should be able to get through a conversation with those bots and get the task done, because it's just not going to tell you the meaning of life. But it's going to find you the hammer.
So if you're sitting here watching this and you want to develop a bot, do you need to bring in I know you're going to say depends on the use case, but let's say it's something like a Home Depot or Lowe's bot. Do you need to bring in some kind of artificial intelligence expert? How would you begin to think that through and to make sure that you can do and create a bot that's effective?
So, that's a great question, right? So just to give some context, my company, Gupshup, we are a bot building platform, okay? And in the process of building a lot of bots for ourselves and for our customers and so on, what we found was there were a lot of common repeating patterns that every bot developer has to do, right? You need to develop some code, you need to integrate it into a dozen channels like Facebook Messenger and Slack and Telegram and so on. Okay, then you need to host the bot somewhere. Then you need to monitor the bot. You need to track it. You need to analyze it. You need to publish it on each one of the channels, give it a different name on Facebook Messenger and so on. And then, of course, there's the what's called the natural language processing to understand the words, and then maybe even artificial intelligence to add some learning capabilities into it. So there's many different components, and so we do some of this. There are other companies that do other things as well. So, as this ecosystem emerges, there are new tools that are coming up for bot builders to quickly build a bot, right? And the idea is, no, you don't need a lot of expertise. There are templates that you can borrow. There are tools. There are tips. So if it's a reasonably straightforward bot, meaning it's a catalog, and you want to be able to find things in it and allow some natural language capabilities and so on, you can get that done in a matter of a few hours to a few days, depending on the scope. If it's really advanced, it may take a few weeks, and eventually, of course, these things take forever because people want to keep upgrading it and adding more capabilities. But the simplest bots can be as little. Like on our platform, our goal is to make it as little as a few minutes. If it's a hello world, keyword-based bot, you can do it literally in a few minutes. If it is a little more advanced, it could be a few hours to a few days normally.
Okay, and when you compare it in terms of cost with an app, people are evaluating bot versus app. What is the, for the same functionality, what's the difference in cost, do you think?
Yeah. So the reason why client-side development in general and building apps are expensive is because an app needs to render every screen, every interaction, right? And getting that right requires a lot of design, a lot of capabilities, and usually it's multiple screens with sort of different flows and so on, right? Now that's really, that's what's expensive. That's what makes it generally time consuming. Also, you have data on the client side, you have to keep something on the server side, then they're communicating back and forth. It just, so on average, an app, would take at least 3 to 6 months to get it really designed to a world-class quality, right? But when you build a bot, the bot is just sending and receiving text, right? It's not rendering any screens. The message is rendered by the messaging channel, by Facebook Messenger, by Slack, by Telegram, and so on, right? So firstly, it's much faster to develop. So it's faster to upgrade, right? You want the bot response to change for specific queries. Well, you change it, it's instantly available. The user, the customer doesn't need to download it all over again, right? If you want to introduce your bot to a new customer, right? If it's an app, they first have to download it. If they don't, if they, it requires pre-planning, right? If you didn't download it when you were home and so on, and then you remember it later, you don't have the app, you're not going to sit there for a couple of minutes, downloading it. People just don't do that. But with a bot, it's kind of like clicking through to a website. You see, it's just like when chatting, you find the name in the address book, you start chatting with them, it's instant. So there's many different aspects to it. So it becomes much more inexpensive from the developer side, and also much more convenient from the consumer side.
Okay. So in terms of cost, though, would you say it's far less, 1/10, 1/5, the same? And I'm not talking about ongoing maintenance because they both require ongoing maintenance. I'm just talking about your first generation bot versus app.
Yeah, I would. Good question, right? So let's say if I was building apps, I'd need at least 3 to 4 developers for 3 to 6 months to just create version 1 versus, a couple of guys for a couple of weeks. I mean, I'm just sort of ballpark. So yeah, it is certainly, anywhere 1/4 to, 1/4 to 1/8 of the effort and cost. And I think the same continues on an ongoing basis because, what happens in version 1 sort of also repeats again in every successive version of the product. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't need to develop it for certain platforms like Android or Microsoft, right? I mean, it just works in the environment that you've designed it to work, whether it's Facebook or Slack or somewhere else. Is that correct?
Or even better, what we've done with the Gupshup platform ourselves is we made it cross-channel, which means you just write the bot once, and it automatically works on a dozen messaging channels, right? So it will work on Facebook Messenger and Slack and Telegram and HipChat and Skype and so on. There's many messaging channels because those integrations are already created. So you don't even have to do that. You just have to focus on, a bot developer just has to focus on their specific logic. If you see this query, then respond with that message and so on.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap things up, if you look at bot development and bots that are coming out today, kind of these generation 1, what are we going to see in 2 years? Do you think? What types of bots are we going to see that really move the needle?
Oh, I think the possibilities are endless, right? So let's start with, let me take in a few incremental steps, right? I think the lowest hanging fruit is taking existing websites or existing services and putting them as bots, right? So you'll have the 1-800-Flowers bot or the Sephora bot or the Amazon bot or the Uber bot, right? The services already exist for them. The bot is just an extra channel to bring the customers in. Okay. Then the next step is you sort of create whole new bot-specific experiences that were not possible before, right? Customer support, conversational experience, maybe some gaming, chatting related, therapy, things like that, a virtual boyfriend. I mean, there's a lot of amusing, interesting possibilities, right? I think then when you take it beyond that, right, when most people talk about bots so far, everybody talks about bot to human interaction, okay? But something that's going to be much bigger than that is going to be bot to bot communication. Imagine 2 bots talking to each other. And it sounds far-fetched, but it's not really, right? Let me give you a simple example. Imagine if you have a pizza ordering bot and a translate bot, right? And if you combine the two, you now have a pizza bot in 100 languages, right? So the message may come in Spanish, the translate bot converts to English, the pizza bot places the order, provides the response in English, which gets translated back, right? Very simple example, but very powerful. So once you can combine bots in interesting ways, it opens up sort of many more possibilities. So maybe a couple of years out, you will be, I don't know, you want to travel, you want to plan your vacation, and there's a bot that can, book a flight, book your rental car, book your hotel, sort of get your favorite things, book tickets for shows, and just all of those things are just automatically done. It sends you alerts, room service, your food is ordered when you want it. I mean, everything is just kind of controlled, taken care of. And I guess we can just sit back and relax and let our bots do the work for us,
Yeah, we'll see if that actually happens. I think it might, and this is kind of my final question, how much does Facebook allow you to pull the likes and interests of the people interacting with the bot, and will that change in the future?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's somewhat limited. Facebook Messenger gives you a unique user ID, so you can't tell what their Facebook social ID is. But users may share it with you. I mean, would share it with the bot if they're interested themselves. However, I think, and they're being deliberately cautious, which is probably good. They want to prevent abuse. They want to see the different kinds of use cases and so on and so forth. But I do expect that over time, as different aspects of the ecosystem mature, once you have trust and verification and you can prevent abuse and so on, I think these things will, I mean, technically they're very possible. So I think it's going to be very exciting because, the whole ecosystem is attacking this opportunity in a big way. You have the messaging channels doing stuff. You have the tool builders like us doing stuff. You have the bot developers themselves, natural language and AI developers too. So everybody is addressing this, which is great. It's great for consumers. It'll be great for developers as well, and lots of new business opportunities coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think we can even fathom the business opportunities, and I've written about this a lot. Where, if bots are able to get to a point where you can interact with them, and I agree with you, for a specific purpose, it can't be like Siri. It's kind of a marketer's dream, is it not? I mean, if you're able, if Facebook opens up a little bit more to see their likes and dislikes, I mean, you could just be interacting with a bot, and the bot should know pretty quickly what types of dresses you like, or what types of sports you like, or whatever it is that you're trying to sell or help them find more information about. And so it almost becomes eerily, like a secondhand assistant, or somebody that's like a concierge, if you will. And
exactly.
If we get to that point, that's a marketer's dream, and it's also a brand's dream. And let's see if that happens or not.
Yeah, exactly. I think, personalization is going to be a big opportunity because every conversation is private and individualized, right? So think about it, right? Once you use a service a couple of times, the simplest sort of pizza ordering service is just the usual, right? And it knows what you mean, where to deliver, where to bill you, so on and so forth. So similarly, if you're buying clothes, you just say, okay, I want, or groceries. It just knows what you want every week, and it just orders it for you. And I think that personalization aspect, I mean, it just makes life so much simpler than having to, explain it all over again every time.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a downside to all of this as well. I mean, the more personalization, the more you have things that understand you, it just leaves us more time to do other stuff. So it might get worse for us. So I'm hoping, like you do, that it just gets easier and we have more leisure time. But especially in business, I'm a little skeptical. It seems like the more tools we're being given to be more effective, the more we're expected to do. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me. Is there any last minute thoughts or anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
No, I mean, it's thanks for having me. I think it's super exciting. We are sort of in uncharted territory, and I think there's something uniquely special about bots that didn't happen before with websites and apps. Is that once you layer in intelligence into these software, that leads you in a very different level, right? Some people talk about singularity and about you may have autonomous bots making decisions on your behalf, taking actions and so on. So where that leads and what that creates is sort of, just mind-boggling. I mean, it's just an order of magnitude more complex than anything we've seen. And to your point of, if you have more bots and more confusion, well, maybe you'll have a personal assistant bot that filters out all the other bots and keeps your life simple and easy, hopefully. So we'll see.
That's a good point, especially like your bot to bot. I hadn't thought about that, but extremely interesting. And, personally, I think this is the space people should be looking at and spending less time focusing on social media sites like Snapchat. I really do believe these bots, if they are able to get more intelligent, or the developers are able to make them more intelligent just by making them really laser focused, it is definitely a game changer out there for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting for entrepreneurs and for consumers. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to thank you for joining us again, and I look forward to talking to you as an update in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mark. Thanks.
Thank you.